The heavy bowgun in Monster Hunter has always been one of the most broken weapons ever introduced in the Monster Hunter series. This is a weapon that has access to so many different ammo types, even being able to use certain ammo types that the light bowgun is incapable of. If you're new to the channel or not subscribed, yo, what's up? I'm Tara. I'm a Monster Hunter veteran who's played the series for 20 years, but I'm also a weapons expert as I play every single weapon in the Monster Hunter series. Let me just lay it out for you. The heavy bowgun is capable of all kinds of raw damage, as well as elemental damage, knocking out monsters, perfect guarding monster attacks, and simply just putting down a hailstorm of damage on monsters. And unlike its counterpart, the light bowgun, the heavy bowgun is able to use very certain explosive ammo types, such as cluster bombs or Wyvern's fire ammo. This allows the heavy bowgun to put out big damage at the cost of limited mobility, of course, but as we talked about before, the perfect guard really does make up for all of that. So throughout this weapon guide, I'm going to take you through the training area. I'm going to show you everything that the heavy bowgun has to offer, but I'm also going to teach you about the different ammo types that the heavy bowgun can use. But more importantly, I'm going to talk about the ranges with the heavy bowgun and all of the defensive capabilities that this weapon has as well. I'm also going to be giving a quick tutorial on how to customize your bowguns and how to best manage your ammo when you're in the middle of a hunt. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider it. I'm on my way to a huge goal of 100,000 subscribers, but you'll also be notified of any guide content that I put out. And I now have an entire playlist of all the weapon guides in Monster Hunter Wilds, but I'm also going to teach you everything that Monster Hunter Wilds has to offer with other guides. But without further ado, let's get into the training area. If you haven't already watched one of my previous guides with the light bowgun, for instance, the heavy bowgun doesn't really act as a melee weapon as it doesn't really have combos, but for the sake of this video, we're going to talk about it. The first thing to know about the heavy bowgun is that you can hold down the left trigger to aim your reticle. From there, you can press the right trigger on any controller to fire. You don't actually have to hold down the left trigger though, you can fire whenever you want to kind of shoot from the hip. Heavy bowgun is all about using different ammo types. For instance, we have a normal ammo type, but heavy bowguns can differ depending on the ammo types that you use and the heavy bowguns that you craft. Pierce ammo is good at a distance, however. It only shoots one shot out, but pierces through the monster multiple times. Whereas spread ammo is typically better up close, but you can't be too close as it won't really work out the same way. We're going to talk about ammo types later on in the video. Let's talk about everything that the bowgun can do in general, no matter the bowgun that you're using. Unlike the light bowgun, the heavy bowgun doesn't really have the best mobility, but you can still strafe while you're using the heavy bowgun. So the heavy bowgun's game plan is very simple in shooting from afar. To reload your heavy bowgun at any time, simply press the triangle or the Y button to reload. If you run out of ammo in your clip and you press the right trigger again when you don't have any, that'll also reload for you automatically. Something else to note about reloading your heavy bowgun is when you have multiple ammo types that do need to be reloaded, if you press and hold down the triangle or the Y button, your hunter will cycle through them automatically and reload all of them for you. That about covers everything you need to know about reloading, except for a couple extra tips which we're going to get to later on in the video. Now, I would get on to different ammo types with the heavy bowgun, but first let's talk about the actual different abilities that the heavy bowgun has access to, no matter the bowgun that you're using. Next, let's talk about the ignition mode on the heavy bowgun. The ignition mode is how we fire a lot of our special ammo. You'll notice in the bottom right, we have a blue gauge, and when we press the circle or the B button, we can equip the ignition mode. Simple as that. We can also press the circle or the B button to unequip it at any time. If you're familiar with my light bowgun guide, the light bowgun is all about the rapid fire energy, which actually boosts the typical ammos that you use with your heavy bowgun. However, the ignition mode is a little bit different with the heavy bowgun, as it has a very tried and true playstyle that doesn't depend on the ammo types that you're able to use with your heavy bowgun. First, let's talk about the main attack of the heavy bowgun in the ignition mode, which is known as the Wyvern Heart, which has got to be one of the coolest attacks in all of Monster Hunter. The ignition gauge appears right below your reticle for ease of access to see how much ignition gauge you has, as when you are firing the Wyvern Heart in the ignition mode, it does expend the gauge. Notice the longer that you fire the Wyvern Heart, the more damage that you actually deal. Since the Wyvern Heart does deal more damage over time, this is an attack that's best used for a long period of time instead of short bursts. If we try to do short bursts, it doesn't really deal very good damage. That's why when you're committing to this attack, it's better to go all the way to get extremely good damage on the monsters. To refill your ignition gauge faster, you can simply shoot at the monster. However, the ignition gauge does also recover over time. Now let's talk about another attack in the ignition mode, which is done by pressing the triangle or the Y button when aiming our reticle. This is known as the Wyvern Counter ignition, as you can see in the top right corner of the screen. Pressing the triangle button will get you this quick little blast. However, there's a couple extra properties that we need to know about with this weapon attack. The first thing to know is that the Wyvern Counter ignition can be held down for a very long amount of time. However, you can also evade out of the attack and not expend any of your meter. The first thing to note about the Wyvern Counter ignition is that if we start it up and just let it fire, it doesn't really deal much damage. But if you charge it up, as I showed you before, it deals pretty good damage on its final release. However, this isn't the key benefit of the Wyvern Counter ignition. This attack actually acts as a counter attack and does have some offset properties, but we're going to talk about that later when we go into the defensive capabilities of the heavy bowgun. Now, I would say that that covers all of the special abilities or the special ammos and the ignition mode of the heavy bowgun, but we actually have two other ones that we need to talk about, but first we need to customize our bowgun. We're going to get into customizing bowguns later on in the video. However, for this part of the video, you simply need to go into any tent or any item box and scroll over to the right to the equipment menu. From there, go down to the bottom option, Customize Bowgun, and select the bowgun that you're using. We have different equip mods, as you can see, that we can customize, but like I said before, we're going to talk about that later on in the video. We need to talk about the equipped special ammo that we can change on the fly depending on if we're at the camp or not. As you can see, we have the Wyvern Heart Ignition, which was the machine gun that you saw from before. Now let's switch over to the Wyvern Piercer Ignition, and on the other special ammo, let's go from the Wyvern Counter Ignition to the Wyvern Blast Ignition. As you may have guessed it, this changed the property of our right trigger or our triangle Y button when we are in the ignition mode. Now when you press the R2 button, it's actually a single fire that slowly pierces through the monster. If you're already familiar with Pierce ammo, as it is in the name Wyvern Piercer, this does have pierce properties. If you fire it from the right direction, you'll get extra damage out of it. The backside of the training dummy acts as tough hide of a monster, so if you fire at the wrong angle, you're not really going to get as good a damage. Now let's talk about our Wyvern Blast Ignition. The Wyvern Blast Ignition is kind of like a little mini stance for the heavy bowgun. Pressing and holding the triangle button down will get us into this Wyvern Blast stance. From here, if we let go of the triangle or the Y button, we'll get a sort of a cluster bomb effect, even if our heavy bowgun can't use cluster ammo, as this is tied directly to the ignition gauge. Something to note about the Wyvern Blast Ignition, if you do it too close to the monster, you're not going to get very good damage, only hitting for 14 two times on this heavy bowgun particularly. So the spacing of the Wyvern Blast does matter when you're trying to get the maximum damage. Now, for all intents and purposes, that does cover all the special ammos of the heavy bowgun. Now let's talk about ammo a little bit further and the different ammo types that heavy bowguns can use and how to best apply them to different monsters. We already went over it before, but let's talk about it a little bit further in depth with the normal ammo, the pierce ammo, and the spread ammo, or as I like to call them, the raw damage ammo types of heavy bowguns. Heavy bowguns are all about positioning. As you may have seen before, we were getting good damage with the normal ammo when we were at about of a mid-range. However, if we fired a little bit further away and our reticle isn't highlighted in orange, we don't really get good damage. Actually, it's not even decent damage. So normal ammo is best used at a mid-range distance. However, pierce ammo is used at a better range when it comes to monsters, especially if we can pierce through longer parts of their bodies. This ammo is all about having the right angle on monsters. Spread ammo in this game does act like a shotgun, but the difference between spread ammo and the normal ammo and the pierce ammo is that it has this awful recoil tied to it in Monster Hunter Wilds, and so far, no matter what, depending on the light bowgun or the heavy bowgun that you're using, there's simply no way to change this recoil on the spread ammo, so it's not very good in Monster Hunter Wilds in my opinion. Something else to note about your ammo types with your bowguns is that they actually have different levels tied to the ammos themselves. This is going to come into play later on when we customize our bowgun depending on the mods that we get or the bowgun that we forge from the get-go. For now, it's important to understand that the level type basically determines how much damage that you're actually dealing with your ammo types. So the normal ammo on this bowgun is only at a level 1. It's not bad. After 2 shots, we get about 94 damage. However, the pierce ammo is a level 3 on this bowgun, so if we can pierce through the monster in the right spot and we do 2 fires, compared to the normal ammo, we got more than double the damage, which is absolutely insane. So using the right level type on the right ammo type is extremely important with your bowguns. Now that basically covers the raw damage ammo types in Monster Hunter. Now let's talk about the ailment ammos in Monster Hunter. For this guide, I'm going to show off the sleep ammo. Notice how the level of the sleep ammo is a level 2 on this Nur Buster Gun or the Nursilla heavy bowgun. This means that the sleep on this ammo is extremely potent. Because it's a level 2 sleep ammo, it's only going to take about 2 shots to put this training dummy to sleep. You're going to see 1 tick of damage as it hits though. That 1 damage is just registering that the ammo did indeed hit the monster, but there's actually a lot of ailment status buildup that's going on behind the scenes. And now let's fire our second shot. And just like that, the training dummy is put to sleep. Monsters always build up resistances to status ailments, which means that you can't apply 2 shots of sleep ammo every single time to put the monster to sleep. Now it's going to take about 4 shots of our sleep ammo to get the job done again. Real quick, something to note about heavy bowguns, and it's actually pretty important, is that depending on the heavy bowgun that you use, you have access to Wyvern ammo, which is an extremely powerful shot. If you don't know this in Monster Hunter, the first instance of damage on a sleeping monster actually always deals double damage. Therefore, if you have a heavy bowgun that's capable of sleep ammo or even Wyvern ammo, you can get tons of damage on a sleeping monster if you utilize the proper ammo, of course. In this case, being the Wyvern ammo. 297 on that first hit. Oh my god. However, you'll see that when we use the Wyvern ammo again, when it's already awake, it's not going to deal as much damage. So just remember, the first instance of damage on any sleeping monster always deals double damage. Do not forget that, ladies and gentlemen. Now that's basically going to cover status ailments. I would show you the poison status ailment, but they all pretty much work the same in that they deal 1 tick of damage on monsters, and they apply a lot of ailment buildup on monsters. Now let's talk about elemental ammos in Monster Hunter. As you may already know, there's fire, water, ice, thunder, and dragon elements. This heavy bowgun, for instance, is only capable of ice ammo, or should I say freeze ammo, but you can think of it as ice. Ice ammo kind of works like pierce ammo in Monster Hunter, where it's going to pierce through the monster, and depending on if the monster is weak to ice damage or not, elemental ammo can be extremely potent. Now, as I showed you before with the pierce ammo, pierce is best done at the right angles of monsters. So if we fire from the side, we're going to get extreme damage. If you did skip to this part of the video, I mentioned it before, but the backside of the monster on this training dummy actually has tough hide. So it's important to know where to fire on your heavy bowgun depending on the elemental or the pierce ammo that you're using. As when you do pierce through the tough hide of a monster, you're not going to get very good damage. This applies to both elemental and pierce ammo. So whether it's elemental ammo or pierce ammo, make sure you have your monster lined up properly. That about covers elemental ammo. It's pretty simple in the way that it fires. Now let's talk about supportive ammo types on heavy bowguns. However, this bowgun doesn't actually have any supportive ammo type capabilities, so we're going to have to switch to our Chotacabra heavy bowgun. As you can see now, we actually have multiple different ammo types. We have access to a Wyvern ammo, water ammo, but more importantly, the supportive ammo types like armor ammo. Armor ammo is a single shot that can go on the ground and create a dust cloud effect that lasts for a limited amount of time. You or your allies can get buffed if you move through it. An example of the armor ammo in action, if you look at the bottom right corner of the screen, I only have 43 defense right now. However, if we pass through it, you're going to watch it visually go up. And just like that, we're at 63 defense. There's also supportive ammo known as the demon ammo, which works the exact same way as the armor ammo, but as you may have guessed it, gets you extra damage instead of defense. There's also a recover ammo that also works the same way, but acts as a heal for you and your teammates. Now moving on to a different type of support ammo with the heavy bowgun is exhaust ammo. The main purpose of exhaust ammo is to actually tire out monsters. Shooting exhaust ammo on any part of the monster, it does work like an ailment that you would apply, as it does deal 1 tick of damage every single time that you fire it. If you're aiming directly at the head of the monster, exhaust ammo actually has the ability to stun monsters over time, as well as tire them out. You'll see here clearly that exhaust ammo will knock out a monster over time. Now, it's not as potent as using sticky ammo for knockout effects, however, it should be stated that this is extremely awesome. The tranquilizer ammo also is kind of like a support ammo in a way as well. Tranquilizer ammo basically works as tranquilizer bombs in Monster Hunter. You can craft tranquilizer ammo and you can fire it at monsters to capture monsters all the same. Do notice though that we're not dealing 1 tick of damage when we fire this at the monster or the training dummy. This means that you can fire this at a sleeping monster and not wake them up. Now let's talk about some extra special ammo types that bowguns can use. The first ammo type is slicing ammo, which does an initial tick of damage, but does a lot of slicing damage afterward. The recoil on this thing kinda sucks. However, it is useful for cutting tails, if you want to cut tails with a bowgun. The next special ammo type is our Wyvern ammo, which I did show you from before. It takes a long time to charge up and is more of a close range ammo type. However, it does big damage when it finally does hit. The next ammo type we have is sticky ammo. Sticky ammo is primarily used to stun monsters with bowguns. Aiming toward the head of a monster, sticky ammo also lodges itself into place, and similar to slicing ammo, it explodes after some time. Enough sticky ammo shots, and over time you will indeed knock out monsters. But it should be stated that the reload time on this thing sucks. But we're going to get into a little tip that'll help you out with the reload of sticky ammo later on in the video. The final unique ammo type of heavy bowguns is Cluster Bomb. Cluster Bomb is only usable by heavy bowguns specifically. Cluster Bomb works like the special ammo that you saw from before, but this isn't tied to our ignition gauge, but this is an ammo type that can actually be brought with us. As you can see, we don't have the typical reticle, and it actually is literally a lob of cluster ammo. Cluster bomb is a great way to get tons of damage on monsters. However, I do not have a good example here, but cluster bomb is a really bad friendly fire attack. At least it was in older Monster Hunter games. So be sure to tell your teammates not when you're using cluster bomb, but to just slot in that shockproof jewel so they don't take any friendly fire knockback. One thing to note about Monster Hunter Wilds is that the cluster bomb is still really good, even literally point blank, as it still gets us the same amount of damage. Now let's get to cover all the typical ammos that you can use with heavy bowguns. Now let's get on to some defensive capabilities of the heavy bowgun. First off, it's important to note, and a lot of players do hate the heavy bowgun's roll. However, I've always been an advocate for this thing. The roll's a little bit slow and sluggish with the heavy bowgun, but look how far you go. This thing is an absolute beast. I've never once subscribed to the idea that this thing is a bad roll whatsoever. This thing is an absolute monster. So do not underestimate this evade and don't listen to what others tell you. Something to note about the heavy bowgun, unlike the light bowgun, is that when you're faced toward the monster, your heavy bowgun will block for you automatically. However, if you're shooting, your heavy bowgun cannot block. So it's important to actually time your heavy bowgun shots and be able to block at the right time as well. Notice that you do take chip damage from this attack as well. However, if you're not faced the proper way, you will still get hit by monsters. And of course, the same rules do still apply when you're aiming down your reticle. New in Monster Hunter Wilds is the ability to actually manually guard with your heavy bowgun. Manually guarding is done by pressing the triangle and circle button together, or the Y and B button together depending on your controller. It's a sword duration block that has a special property, and let's talk about it now. Monster Hunter Wilds has a new ability, the ability to perfect guard attacks. If you mistime this manual guard and prep it a little bit early, you'll still get a normal block. One of the key things to pay attention to with the perfect block, or the perfect guard I should say, is that it significantly reduces oncoming damage, or even a lot of time, will literally negate damage incoming. The perfect guard with the heavy bowgun also has the ability to let you start firing right away, so it has little to no recovery. But that's not all the perfect guard gets you with the heavy bowgun. Landing the perfect guard also allows us to get an exclusive evasion option that's tied to the perfect guard itself to reposition with the heavy bowgun. Because as you know, the mobility on this thing isn't very good. This thing is extremely handy as you can do it in multiple different directions. Now let's finally double back to a move that we showed earlier on in the video. Wyvern Counter Ignition has an offset property to it. You can quickly whip it out to get the offset clash attack, but remember, you can also hold this thing down, which allows you to prep it properly and hit it at the right moment to make it a lot easier on yourself. The only drawback to the heavy bowgun having an offset attack is that you do need to have the Wyvern Counter Ignition specifically equipped, but also does expend your ignition gauge. However, do note that while it does look like it though, you cannot block while you're doing this. Now let's get on to focus mode with the heavy bowgun. Now you may get a kick out of this, and if you have already watched my light bowgun guide, I'm going to tell you the same thing. We've pretty much already been using focus mode the entire time, just by holding down the left trigger. So it should be stated that focus mode is obviously really important with the heavy bowgun, as you can strafe and shoot and stuff. That pretty much covers focus mode, besides the wound strikes. So because of that, let's now talk about the focus attack, or should I say the focus blast, the Wyvern Howl. Holding down the left trigger and pressing the R1 or the RB button depending on your controller will get us into a specific stance. As you see in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and right above our rapid fire gauge, and also right below our reticle when we do enter this stance, you'll notice that we're actually limited on how many focus fires we can do. So we're only limited to 3 focus attacks at a time, but they do recharge over time. Letting go of the R1 or the RB button will pierce through the monster and do a little tick of explosion, also popping the wound. Something to note about the focus blast is that it actually can pierce through monsters and hit wounds on the other side as well. And that actually about covers the focus mode with the heavy bowgun. Pretty simple stuff. Now let's talk about sliding and slopes with the heavy bowgun. Out of any slide, we can press the triangle or Y button to get a jumping ready on our heavy bowgun, which basically just draws our heavy bowgun. From here, we have a couple different options. The first option is to fire midair, which isn't really the most useful, but it is kind of cool to hover in the air for a split moment. The next and the most important thing with the heavy bowgun and the light bowgun respectively is you have access to an attack called the jumping reload. The jumping reload is an attack that's done by pressing the triangle or Y button or even the right trigger on any controller, whether you're in a jumping or midair state or you're coming out of the slide with the jumping ready attack. You'll get this attack that lands on the ground and has a few different properties. As you saw right there, a hunter actually reloaded our ammo for us. What's great about this reload animation is that it can actually bypass the horrendous reload time on something like the sticky ammo, for instance. So if you need to reload your sticky ammo or something that takes a long time, for instance, and you have the use of terrain, using the jumping reload will make your life a lot easier. Just like that, our sticky ammo is reloaded way faster. And that's pretty much going to cover sliding. Now let's talk about ledges with the heavy bowgun, but more importantly, talk about the jumping reload a little further. First off, when you're in a mid-air state, you can pretty much do all the same things. We can do a fire, and we can do the jumping reload attack. The jumping reload has two more properties to it. Now, while you might think that the heavy bowgun doesn't have access to mounts, it actually does, as the jumping reload does deal mount damage over time to monsters. And I don't know if you did hear that sound effect just now, but the jumping reload also does stun damage, meaning you can knock out monsters over time with this attack. This might take a while, chat. I might leave this part in. And just like that, the monster is knocked out. So the jumping reload is extremely important with bowguns because not only does it reload for you, but it also does mount damage and also stun damage to knock out monsters. Extremely good stuff. Now let's get into one final tip with the heavy bowgun. The heavy bowgun can be utilized on your Seikret. Well, a lot of weapons can, but the heavy bowgun has the ability to fire from your Seikret as well. It's not really the most useful if you ask me, but it is something that should be noted. Do note, though, that the recoils or anything like that don't really change a whole lot depending on the ammo type that you're using. But it is pretty important to note that if you're not currently firing, you have a lot more speed on your heavy bowgun. This is mostly useful for when you're approaching a fight and you want to set down some demon ammo for you and your teammates or something like that. Now, if you skip to this part of the video, another thing to note is that you can also use that reload trick that I showed you from before by pressing and holding the triangle button down, or the Y button. You can reload all of your ammo types on your Seikret as well. Another interesting thing to know is that you can use your focus fire from your Seikret as well. But more importantly, if you jump off of your Seikret and press the triangle or Y button or the right trigger, you'll get the jumping reload. Now let's get into some recommendations of bowguns that you should use, or what actually suits your playstyle and how to customize them properly. Getting into bowgun recommendations, the recommendations actually are going to depend on what suits you and your playstyle or what monster you're going up against. There are a few different things to pay attention to when selecting your bowguns and what to craft. First, let's talk about the equipment info on the right side of the screen. Right below our defense bonus and under the Hope Cannon 1, you'll see that we have the normal ammo, pierce ammo, and spread ammo. On the very right side of that, it'll tell you what level of ammo that the heavy bowgun can use specifically. The Hope Cannon 1, for instance, has a level 2 upgrade to the normal ammo, which means more damage specifically on normal ammo. However, if you scroll down below and go to the ore tree, for instance, you'll notice that we actually drop a level in the normal ammo, but the ore tree beginning weapon, the Iron Assault 1, makes better use of pierce ammo. Now, it's basically as simple as levels go when it comes to selecting your bowgun on how much damage you want out of your raw damage ammo types. Something to know about the normal, pierce, and spread ammo as well is that these ammo types are actually unlimited. This is different in Monster Hunter Wilds compared to other Monster Hunter games where you had to bring a fixed amount of these ammos. In this game, they're always unlimited. Down below the spread ammo, you'll also see that we have 2 customizable mods on our bowguns. On this one, for instance, it comes with the pierce ammo powder and the standard mode upgrade. But up here at the expedition tree, you'll see that it comes with 2 normal ammo magazines. Now, there is something to pay attention to with these mods, but we're gonna have to talk about that in a little bit after we talk about the mods so that you know what to identify when you're looking at your bowguns. Below our customizable mods with the normal ammo magazines is now our special ammo. The special ammo on this Hope Cannon comes with Wyvern Heart ignition and the Wyvern Counter ignition. Now, as you saw before, you can actually change these ammos on the fly to the Wyvern Piercer that you saw from before, and also the Wyvern Blast. This is merely stating what the heavy bowgun comes with from the get-go, and there's actually no restriction to changing to the ammo type of your choice. However, certain heavy bowguns do start with these in mind, as they may be better suited to that heavy bowgun specifically. Down below that is our ignition gauge recovery. Different heavy bowguns come with different ignition gauge recoveries. The higher the ignition gauge recovery level, the faster it recharges. So as you see, the ignition gauge recovery on this is a level 2. However, something like an endgame weapon, like the Arcveld heavy bowgun, comes with an ignition gauge recovery level 3. Now finally, down below the ignition gauge recovery level is what base type our heavy bowgun is. This part is a little bit confusing. Now in Monster Hunter Wilds, I couldn't find a single bit of information that told me what this did, but based on my findings, I think it's as simple as this. We have 2 different types to our heavy bowguns. We have standard and ignition. This heavy bowgun comes with a standard / ignition base type. However, other certain heavy bowguns, like the Chadakaba for instance, actually comes with a standard mode, ST standing for special type, level 2. Standard mode dictates how much damage that you're dealing with your normal, pierce, and spread ammo respectively, as those are all standard ammo types with heavy bowguns. However, taking a look at the Gypceros heavy bowgun, the Gypceros has an ignition mode special type too. Ignition mode dictates how much damage you're dealing whenever you're using your ignition gauge. So certain heavy bowguns deal more damage when you're using your special ammo types, or should I say your ignition gauge, whereas other heavy bowguns are typically better with their normal ammo types or their raw damage ammo types being the normal, pierce, and spread. Now, you may be thinking, then what is the standard and ignition base type? Well, this simply means that the heavy bowgun is rounded out to deal good standard damage with its normal ammo types, but also make pretty good use of its ignition gauge. So the easiest way to think about this is that if you see the standard ignition, this basically means it has a level in both areas respectively. Whereas the Chotacabra has 2 levels in standard mode specifically for your raw damage ammo types, and the Gypceros, for instance, doubles down on the ignition mode. Now that pretty much covers nearly everything that you need to look for when selecting your heavy bowguns. There is one more thing to look at, but first we're going to have to customize our bowgun mods, and we're going to circle back to the one final thing to look for that's going to make all the difference. On your equipment menu, you can simply go down to customize bowgun and find the bowgun that you're trying to customize. Let's take a look at the Hope Cannon 1 to start out. Now if you skip to this part of the video, I already went over the equip special ammo earlier on in the video. This video will be segmented into timestamps so you can go back and take a look. So now let's talk about the equip mods that we have on our Hope Cannon 1. Any magazine will simply increase the capacity of the ammo type that you're using respectively. As it says below, the normal ammo magazine increases the capacity of normal ammo, but something like the pierce or spread or even the elemental will increase the capacity of your flaming, water, thunder, freeze, and dragon ammo. There's a certain reason why some bowguns come with some equip mods on them from the get-go, and let's talk about it now. To do this, we're going to need to tab over a few times with our equipment info on the right side of the screen. Pressing the right trigger up to a couple times will show you the different ammo types that heavy bowguns can use. The Hope Cannon 1 has access to normal, pierce, and spread, as every single heavy bowgun can use these raw damage ammo types, but it also has access to sticky ammo, poison, thunder, recover, demon, and tranquilizer ammo. You'll notice that the Hope Cannon specializes in normal ammo, as it has a level 2 upgrade to any normal ammo that you use, meaning more damage. It also has a capacity of 6 shots in its ammo clip before you have to reload. This is actually, in fact, because of the equipped ammo magazines that we have. So if we were to change off of the normal ammo magazine and go to something like the Pierce, for instance, you'll notice that the Pierce ammo, all the way on the right side of the screen, goes up to a 6 ammo capacity on every clip, but our normal ammo decreases. It's pretty much as simple as that. You can double down on some areas, or you can have an even spread on different capacities depending on your bowgun that you're using. However, you'll recall what I said before, where some heavy bowguns come with some magazines already equipped, or some mods I should say. This comes with 2 normal ammo magazines because the Hope Cannon 1 does make really good use of normal ammo, as it has a level 2 upgrade to all the damage that you're dealing. So it makes sense to have as much capacity in your clip as possible with normal ammo. Most heavy bowguns that you'll see from the get-go are set up like that, with the best mods intended for the heavy bowgun from the get-go. So for example, if you're using a heavy bowgun that's specialized in pierce ammo with its level, you might want to consider the Pierce Ammo magazine. Now let's talk about our second equip mod, which actually changes a few of the different mods that we have at a time. First off, when we tab down, you'll notice that we actually lost the ability to do an Elemental Ammo magazine. Now we have the standard mode upgrade and the ignition mod. So now let's take a look at the new options that we also have, which is the standard mode upgrade and the ignition mod. The standard mode upgrade specifically states it switches the bowgun to standard mode, special type, ST in parentheses, or increases the level if it's already that type. Therefore, as we talked about before, on the right side of the screen on the equipment info and all the way at the bottom is our standard/ignition base type. If we were to utilize the standard mode upgrade, you'll notice that it does switch to a standard mode special type 1, meaning that we'll deal extra damage with all of our raw damage ammo types. So we can specialize even further and kind of stray away from the ignition mode to get better damage generally, as we're just firing our heavy bowgun. And as you may have guessed it, now we're actually taking a look at an arc-failed heavy bowgun. There's also an ignition mode upgrade as well, which switches the heavy bowgun from standard/ignition to ignition mode special type 1. We're utilizing Wyvern Heart or the Wyvern Piercer, stuff like that. But going back to our Hope Cannon 1 now, let's take a look at the other equip mod that we can also use, which is the ignition mod. The ignition mod improves the recovery speed of the ignition gauge. As you'll see on the right side of the screen, the ignition gauge recovery, from the comparison of the equipment infos, goes from a level 2 to a level 3. So you can equip this mod to tailor how fast your ignition mode actually does recover. Now that's nearly everything to look for when you're selecting your mods. However, there is one last thing that I need to show you. Sometimes light bowguns and even heavy bowguns don't come with magazine mods at all. This is something that you're gonna need to pay attention to when crafting heavy bowguns. The Hope Cannon 1 doesn't have access to it. However, the Chotacabra heavy bowgun has access to powders instead of the magazines that you're familiar with from before. So unlike magazine mods, powders literally dictate the level that your ammo type is at. Right now it's equipped on the normal ammo, but if we switch to a pierce ammo, for instance, you'll notice that it switches off of level 2 normal ammo to pierce ammo level 2. So this doesn't extend your clip size, but dictates how much damage you're dealing with every single shot. This is extremely important, as you may want to craft a bowgun that suits your playstyle and your needs, depending on whether you prefer more ammo in your clip or more damage per shot. That's pretty much as simple as elemental powders go as well. And that basically is going to cover everything that you need to know about crafting your heavy bowguns and customizing them to suit your needs and your playstyle. But next we need to talk about different ammo types and some neat tricks to get more ammo while you're out on a hunt. In this example that you're going to see, I'm going to be showing the light bowgun, but this example will be used to serve the light bowgun and the heavy bowgun weapon guides, as the same rules do apply. First off, let's talk about the ammo types that are unlimited no matter the bowgun that you're using. In your base camp menu, if you go to transfer items, go down to your ammo pouch, it's going to show you a list of all the ammo types that you have and the bowgun that you're using on what level types you can use. Normal, pierce, and spread ammo are always unlimited no matter the bowgun you're using in Monster Hunter Wilds. This is different than other Monster Hunter games. However, what isn't limited is every other ammo type besides that. The number on the right side of any highlighted ammo that you see is the maximum capacity of that ammo that you can carry on you at a time. Anytime you want to reload all of your ammo types, no matter the bowgun that you're using, it'll automatically fill every single ammo type when you're on the screen by pressing the X or the A button. You can restock all of your ammo all at once, and it will automatically bring all the different ammo types that you can use, even if that bowgun can't use it. So doing this once will guarantee that you're good for any single bowgun. Now on this Rathian bowgun, for instance, let's say I want to bring more than 60 flame ammo. It is possible to bring more than 60, however, we're going to have to incorporate item crafting, or more importantly, ammo crafting. Different ammos are crafted using different materials. To check out what item that you want to craft, you can simply go down to your crafting list and scroll over or tab over with the R1 or the RB button 3 times to go to our ammo. From here, and in this example, we're going to be taking a look at flame ammo. Crafting flame ammo does take normal ammo and fire herbs. Since normal ammo is infinite in this game, you literally only need fire herbs. We can craft these straight in our box. However, because we are able to bring items with us out on a hunt, we can put fire herbs directly into our inventory and craft while we're out and about to make more flame ammo if we need to if we run out. To do this, we need to bring fire herbs, and since normal ammo is always unlimited, we technically always have some on us. Now we have fire herbs in our inventory. I will be making a comprehensive item guide for Monster Hunter Wilds, so stay tuned for that, as it's not released yet, but it may be at the time of your viewing of this video. If it has been released yet, I'll link it down below in the description. For now, just know that you need to carry a certain item to craft the certain ammo that you need. Now that we have fire herbs in our inventory, let's go out to the field. The easiest way to craft ammo while you're out and about, or more importantly, any single item in Monster Hunter, for instance, is by going into our options and going down to customize radial menu. If you haven't used a radial menu yet in Monster Hunter Wilds, I highly suggest it. This part is also going to be a part of the item guide that I mentioned before that I'm going to be making eventually on the channel. To sum up the radial menu very quickly in this weapon guide for this purpose, the radial menu is done by holding the L1 or the LB button. You can scroll through your normal items with square or circle, or X and B, respectively, on the controller that you're using. But if we use the right stick on any controller, we can actually highlight a specific item that we set up and customize ourselves on this radial menu. If we let go of the right stick on this ghillie mantle icon, for instance, we'll equip the ghillie mantle. And if we let go of it again, we'll take it off. The radial menu is very handy, can be customized to your needs. This is extremely important on the bowgun. If we press the directional pad, we can actually highlight multiple different radial menus that we can customize. This one, for instance, has a bunch of ammo types that we can easily select. If we let go of the stick on the sticky ammo, it'll automatically equip the sticky ammo for us on the right. As you can see here, the sticky ammo is now equipped. If we want to go to pierce ammo, for instance, though, it'll automatically highlight pierce ammo for us. But most important is the ability to craft ammo while you're out in the field. To do this, we need to customize our radial menu and our items and equipment tab of our options. From here, you can set it on any single radial menu that you want. You can do the ammo, but you could also do it for the action radial menu itself. Let's try doing the action radial menu. Use the left stick on any controller to highlight in between any two options and press the X or the A button. From here, we need to select the flame ammo that we want to craft, so we can tab over to the right to go to our ammos and coatings. However, this is to select different ammo types that you want to equip right away. This is not what we're looking for. What we are looking for is the literal ability to craft the ammo that we need. Therefore, we need to tab over 2 more times with the right trigger on any controller. This goes to a crafting list, and we can actually set up crafting on any single item in the game to any radial slot that we want. From here, use the R1 or RB button to go over to different ammo types. And from here, we can select the flame ammo and set it to our radial menu. We can select crafting 1 by 1 to hit the stick multiple times, but that's really annoying and we do not want to do that. Just select all anytime you want to craft some more ammo. And just like that, we have the ability to craft flaming ammo on our radial menu. Now let's test it out. I'm already full on my flaming ammo at 60, and since flame ammo is created in packs of 6 per fire herb, we need to shoot off 6 shots. We'll even go a little bit overboard. So now, I only have 52 flame ammo on me. Now since we're missing the flame ammo that we need, or if we want to craft more, we can simply hold down the L1 or the LB button to go to our radial menu. And from here, we can select the flame ammo and let go of the right stick to craft the flame ammo that we're missing. And as you see now, we're at 58 flame ammo. The only reason that we're not at a maximum of 60 is because only 6 flame ammo is crafted at a time. And therefore, because we can't go over 60, it only crafted a maximum of 6. It doesn't craft the other 2 because we are trying to craft multiple flame ammo at a time. It will not waste the flame ammo per fire herb if we go overboard. As I said before, this small little tutorial for ammo crafting is going to serve the light bowgun and the heavy bowgun guides respectively, as the same rules apply. Now that is going to wrap up the heavy bowgun in today's weapon guide. Truth be told, and in my opinion, the heavy bowgun has always rivaled the longsword for one of those more hated weapons in the Monster Hunter series. Now the longsword is usually hated because it's a very popular weapon, or it has always had a history of tripping lots of players in Monster Hunter with its long range. However, the heavy bowgun has always had a little bit of disdain for it from certain players who just hate how OP the weapon has been in the past. The heavy bowgun can do so many things in Monster Hunter, it is ridiculous. Not only can the heavy bowgun put out tons of raw damage as we talked about before, but it's capable of elemental damage. You can slice monsters' tails with slicing ammo. You have great wake up opportunities with your Wyvern's Fire's attacks. And in the past, this thing has been a better knockout weapon than the hammer, which you would think is the king of knockout weapons. However, that has changed in Monster Hunter Wilds, as the heavy bowgun now has a lot of recoil whenever you are firing sticky ammo. But that doesn't mean that this thing is bad. This thing can still do so many different things, and with the customizable mods, as well as the great range and the great guarding behind this weapon, this thing is an absolute beast, and you can keep an absolutely ridiculous DPS uptime with this thing if you know how to space with this weapon properly. But that's all I've got for today's weapon guide, guys and gals. I hope you had a good one. Now that we're at the end of this weapon guide, do you think you'd prefer the heavy bowgun or the light bowgun more? Do you think that the heavy bowgun could still be considered one of the most OP weapons in Monster Hunter? And if it isn't, what is the strongest weapon in Monster Hunter Wilds? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And once again, if you have not subscribed to the channel already, please consider it. I'm on my way to a huge goal of 100,000 subscribers. You'll also be notified of any guide content that I put out, as this is the final weapon guide I've covered for every single weapon in Monster Hunter Wilds. So you can watch any of my other weapon guides, but I'm also going to be releasing more guide content to teach you everything that you need to know about Monster Hunter Wilds in general. But you can also catch one of my live streams, as I stream to both YouTube and Twitch, as I'm a multi-streamer, and you can see me put one of these weapons into action. But as I said before, that's going to be everything for today. Guys and gals, Terra Knights, I hope you had a good one. I'm signing off. This has been Terra, and I'll catch you in the next Monster Hunter Wilds guide. Peace!